Hello, everybody. Back in the shop here today again. Uh, I went to winterize the Moto Guzzi, and I went to start the bike, and at first it didn't want to crank, and I had it on, a good battery charger. Uh, uh, well, I use a battery tender. A lot of you guys do, but it was on a battery tender. And the second time I went to, I hit the button again, let it rest a second, hit the button again, and it did start. But the generator was light was on, and it hasn't been before. You know, when it's idling, of course, you get a little flicker on the generator light, but the generator light was on here. Now, you can see that all this stuff has been changed. You'd have to go back to some of the other videos that I've made on this bike very shortly. It was just one of those bikes that I had saved. It was sitting outside for years and years, at least 8 by the tag on the back, and I don't think it was kept inside. But anyway, the whole bike had to get rewired. Everything had to be gone through. But anyway, that's a different story. So the reason why you see a lot of this stuff has been modified is because just about everything on it except the hard parts were bad. But anyway, back to the regulator. So I had kind of proactively put a solid state regulator in it because I thought, okay, well, let me, the regulator is so old. It was working, but not, I just wondered about it because it was so old. This is the new one, and here's the old Bosch style regulator. Now, when the light came on and I wondered why it wasn't charging, I thought, well, maybe I got a bad cell in the battery or something like that. And so I checked the battery, checked all the battery, tested good. And, I rewired this whole bike. So I thought, all right, well, maybe something I did with the wiring, maybe there's a short in the wiring or something like that. But no short in the wiring. I had to go through with the multimeter and and check everything that way. But what was a little confusing was because I had put the new regulator in not that long ago, probably, I don't know, beginning of the summer, late spring, something like that. I wasn't thinking it would be the regulator. So I thought, gosh, I've replaced the regulator. So I was checking the alternator and, just making sure everything tested out good there. The brushes were good and everything seemed fine there. The battery was good. The wiring all looked good. And I was like, what in the heck could it possibly be? And so I thought, well, just for the heck of it, I'll put another regulator in there and just see, sorry about the fingers there, and just to see what happens. And the light was still on. So I thought, okay, gosh, the new regulator is still good, because I tried it with a different regulator. But the regulator that I had in my spares in this box, I had gotten with a bunch of Moto Guzzi spares that had come with another bike. And so I thought, okay, well, it's in the box. To double check the new one, I put this one that was in the box on there, and I still had the red light. So I thought, okay, well, the new regulator is still good because I've just double checked it with one that appeared to be new old stock. Now, the clue that I should have had with the seal is broken on it. And I don't know why somebody would put a bad regulator back in the box and put it in their spares. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, it does. I had a second regulator. Well, actually, this was the one that I took off that was still operating, but I took it off to put the new one on that could just out of, I just wanted to be sure, because these old ones can tend to fail sometimes. And anyway, so I put the old regulator back on now. This would be the third one I tried, but and boom, the light was out. So it's one of those things where you don't think that's what it is because you've already replaced it. So I've been racking my brain over, what am I missing here? But so we've got that. I don't know if I'll look for a newer one again or not, but this one is working. And so I may just remount it and go with it. What the heck? Why fix something that isn't broken, I suppose, is something I should have maybe thought of in the first place there. But I got to remount this regulator. It's just loose in there. I just plugged it in. One thing I would say is the plug that goes into the bottom of these regulators, there's no safety catch on it. So when you plug it in, it just kind of snaps in and it won't come out. So there is none. And so what I try and do is get a zip tie and go around the regulator and the connector just to give it so it doesn't rattle off the bottom of the regulator, with between the vibration and gravity. So anyway, I'll finish that up. I've been through the bike. Of course, you can see that, these are the old calipers were completely shot. They were not rebuildable. So I've got all new calipers on it, and the steel braided lines are on there. One of the things that can be tricky on these converts is the brake lines that run to the front, and it also runs to the rear caliper. Because when you use the master cylinder on these, the rear master cylinder operates the left front brake and the rear disc. And so originally there's one line that comes off of here, and it goes to a splitter that's up over here. So you've got one line that goes to the splitter, and then you've got a line that goes from that splitter to the rear brake, and the other line goes to the front brake. Well, the way it's set up here, I tried a vacuum bleeder on it. I tried different things on it. It's almost impossible to get that air out because you've got high points in all of these lines that run to the rear and the back. And, you're trying to get this air out, and it's just, it's air, so it wants to gravitate to the top of the lines. It just became, I thought, there's a simpler way to do this. So I got a long banjo here and double banjo, and just ran two lines. I ran one line to the rear brake, and I ran one steel braided line to the front. Now, of course, they obviously still operate the rear brake and the left front, which I don't mind on these cruisers. It's fine. You're not out doing some GP races, and in fact, for everyday use, I find it pretty handy. But this is just for anybody who's dealing with that kind of stuff. I would say, these brake line kits come with lines, and you can you can cut the line, put the fittings on to whatever length you need the line to be at. And the nice part about that is, now that you've got separate lines in there, you can unbolt the caliper and bring it up here. Bring it up high, and that way the air bubbles come up and out, and it just made it so much easier, so much simpler. And the same with the front. This is where air gets trapped right here. Of course, when this is the stock routing for the line. It used to be a steel line that goes along here, but it's much higher than the master cylinder, and then it drops way down to the brake. So you get air here, you get air in the splitter that's mounted back here. But again, you can, before you put your mounts on here, you leave these loose and everything, you can raise this caliper up here, bleed it, put it back down. It just made the whole thing much simpler. Anyway, that's just kind of a side note as what's going on here today. We got, if you haven't seen these fuel line clamps, these little fuel line clamps, It just makes it a lot easier, you know, keep the gas from getting all over your shop. You could just clamp that fuel line clamp on there and pull the fuel lines. It's a lot quicker and a lot neater than it would be if you didn't have something like that. Anyway, it doesn't. It's got, you know, flat sides here, so it's not like you're crimping it with a, I don't know, a vice grip or whatever you might decide to use on it. But anyway, so there's those clamps. But I don't know if you know, really. And I've done this before, you know, I had a G5, and that's a whole nother story, but I've crabbed these bikes and pulled the transmissions on them. And now I have had the swing arm off, and everything has been redone. The bearings were shot in this swing arm, and the universal joint was good. Actually, you know, because it sat outside was the worst thing, but it didn't have that many miles on it. So I inspected everything. Everything looked good except the swing arm. The boot was bad, obviously. New boot, new bearings in there. Greased all the spines in the shaft, and on and on. But back to my point is, you know, I probably should pull the trans, reseal the automatic trans, you know, put a new rear main seal in there, and have a look at the gearbox and things like that, because it does weep a little. Yeah, I mean, it's not as if it's just pouring out, but, you know, hey, it's a 19, well, I think the headstock says 75, so it's one of the very early converts there. One of the first ones, in fact. So, anyway, that's what we're working on today. Bike runs really good for sitting outside. I'm surprised. This thing is, I mean, it's a convert, so you can't say it's really quick, but I'll tell you, it's quicker than you might think. It really runs strong. I think, well, I've opened up the exhaust and did a little and did a little crazy stuff on the exhaust, just because I just wanted to do a custom because it was so far gone. But I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. It sounds great. You know, people are like, what in the heck is that thing? Digital lights on here. Well, I can show you while we're looking around at it, but I kind of put some sequential turn signals on it, and they're much easier to see, use a lot less amperage, and it turned out to be pretty good there. These here, sequential on the back, and they hide so well. You don't really like see these big stalks sticking out like you don't want on a custom like that. And the front, you know, you don't want to run the headlight. The headlights, this is a very old Bates style headlight. Everybody's always looking for these custom headlights from years ago. So, but you know, it's not an LED light, and I don't want to run it all day, although it does work. It does the high and low beam do work on it. And so anyway, I put these running lights on the front instead of running the headlight, because I do like to run a light so people can see you coming. So actually, these are more effective than that old headlight anyway. So you get those running lights on, and again, they kind of hide there. You know, there's a horn for you. I accidentally hit that. But yeah, I got the horn buttons here, high-low switches on the horn. I do have an auxiliary switch here for the headlight that I ran just because, well, it was handy. Basically, that's the whole thing there. But you can see everything has been rewired, because all the wiring was a rat's nest. Anyway, so you can see these bikes. See the pedal when you go to look at these bikes. You know, usually the other one I had, I mean, this rubber was half worn off. The bike had it had 119,000 miles on. One I got, where did I get that? In Illinois. But you can tell the wear and tear on this bike has not you know, it's a fairly low mileage bike, which is probably the reason it runs so well. Of course, everything, you know, it was a little bit of a chore to get it all straightened out because the carbs were a mess. Of course, everything in the ignition system needed to be gone through, and everything, and new ignition switch, and on and on and on. But anyway, I just thought I'd fill you in on what's been going on in the shop. Now I can let my brain rest a little on it, because a couple of days I was trying to figure out what was wrong with it, and boom, it was just a regulator that I thought I had already addressed. So that was the gist of it. But anyway, I hope you all having a good day, and I'll talk to you later.